Okay, so go to that link, download the new one, and then you'll be able to use that. It's got a couple new features today that I'm going to show you, and so we want you to be able to have that newest one. Now, from the last webinar, we had some good ideas, and so one of the things that we are going to do to start off, show you very quickly here, on our website, should make sure it pops up here. There we go. So on our website, when you go under Eagle Eyes, you get all the menus with everything to do with Eagle Eyes. Under Online Activity Library, when we come down, we've added the Herbi Speaks library. And the Herbi Speaks library is what you see right now on your screen. We're going to always have the most recent training video for Herbi Speaks right here, which I already have to remake again because we added some new features. And then what we will do is add today over here underneath the Herbi dinosaur, we are going to add the most recent version number so that way you can kind of keep up. If there's a new version that's available, you can check back to this page and then download the new version. As of right now, you do have to uninstall your old version before installing the new version. We are looking into being able to do something where it would install automatically over the top of the old one, but we are still working on that. So, and then on this page also, we have 3 tabs right here: upload files, download, and question suggestions. Right now it is up and running now. If you have Herbi files that you start making, you can upload them to us so we can share them with everyone and kind of start a nice file sharing system so you don't have to create everything. And then you'll come to the download, and that's where we will have the files to download. We're working on that right now. We had a little bit of an issue because the Herbi file is a unique extension. The Herbi file is .hbi or something. The server does not recognize it, so we're trying to resolve that issue, and then we will start adding files to the download section. And then questions and suggestions, we will have that up at the end of today also, and that will have a place for you to be able to ask any questions, or if you have suggestions for future developments, you can add them there also. Now, what we're showing you today is the Herbi Basic version, and we're calling it Basic because it does pictures and text, and we are now working on an advanced version which would allow us to do audio and video clips, maybe possibly animation, things like that, to be more comparable. But this is a free board maker. Guy Barker, who works at Microsoft, has developed it, so it does only work on Microsoft computers. It's developed on the Microsoft.NET framework. So if you do have a Microsoft partition, though, on your Mac, then it will work just fine on that also. So you can do it either way. But because he's made this free, obviously it's not a $200 piece of software, but oddly enough, it's much easier to use. So we're going to get started. Here's our blank screen. So when you open up Herbi Speaks, you start out with a black blank screen. Now, when you first download it, you're going to want to come up and just set your defaults real fast before you start making anything. So up here in the top menu, we have File, which is just a normal new open save file menu that we're used to. The View is just a full screen option if you want it. And then the Options. These are the default options. So starting out on the default, we have the background color. So we have the background color here that is defaulted to black. Now, personally, I recommend using the black to begin with. You can start getting in other colors, but black, honestly, usually has the least, side effects. If you have a bright pink screen versus a black screen or even a white screen, it's harder on the eyes. So a black screen is very easy on the eyes. It also helps with low light situations, allows the eye to dilate better. So, but that's totally up to you. So I leave mine as default black. And what I do is I change the text colors, and we'll show you how to do that. Default button text color is set to white. I just leave it on that because it shows up white. And then for each button, I'm going to be able to change the color. So we're just going to leave that. But then the default text font, you will want to change this once you download it. I use a 48 font. It's a large enough font to see and do if I need it. Most of the time I hide the font depending on what kind of activity I'm doing because most of the users cannot read anyway. And so unless we're working on words, I'll hide that. But a 48 font's big enough to see. So set that at a 48, click OK, and now that's set as a default. So any board I work on is going to default to that. And then Options, button border thickness. Around each button, when I scroll over it, a border is going to appear. And I like a nice thick border, so I set that to an 8 as default. And so once I have those defaults set up, I'm ready to start working with it. And then this Boards tab, we're going to talk about that, or the Boards menu. We'll talk about that when we get to there. So we're going to start out. Eagle Eyes and Camera Mouse can only left click. So we talked about this for a while, and Guy Barker said, hey, what if we made it so that all you have to do is put your cursor on the screen wherever you want to start and just right click, and then there's all of your menu options. Because Camera Mouse and Eagle Eyes cannot right click, that's not even a function that they can get to. So I right click, I add a new button. And I can right click, add a new button, and you can add as many buttons as you want to a board. Now here's the disclaimer. When you start, make sure you start simple. A lot of us tend to get a little carried away because it's a new tool and we want to see these kids do so many things and succeed. And so sometimes we make it a little harder than it should be for them. So start out simple. Maybe you start out with just creating boards with 2 buttons and maybe do simple choice selection. You know better than we do, of course, where they're at. And so if they are advanced, then that's fine. You can do advanced. But always err on the side of starting too simple rather than too advanced. Also on button placement, when you place your buttons, don't put things in the middle of the screen because that is where our eyes or head naturally rest, and we don't want to accidentally click on that. If you do put something in the middle of the screen, just put the instructions. So if you have an activity, that's where you can put the instructions to the activity. So now, once I have my buttons on there, I can now right-click on the button. And when I right-click on the button, now I have my options of what I can do. I can remove the button if I didn't want that button, add it back. My next function is I can enter edit mode. Now, entering edit mode, you can do that anywhere on the screen. So entering edit mode brings up this grid so that I can see where my buttons are lined up. Now, this grid was actually a suggestion from one of our teachers who said, hey, I'm a little OCD and I really want to line these things up perfectly. So what you can do is just click and drag those buttons wherever you want them. The grid is just there to help you line them up. It doesn't snap to the grid. It's free-forming. And then I can, if I click on the corner, any corner of the box, I can resize the box to whatever size I need. Now, resizing the box is also good for if I put a picture on here and maybe the picture is skewed because it's not the right shape. That would be a good reason of why I'm going to maybe need to resize that into a new size. Now, thing to always remember, always hit exit edit mode when you're done. And the reason for this is once you start making multiple boards, if you accidentally leave one of the boards in edit mode, none of the boards will work until you go and hit exit edit mode again. So if you're ever having trouble, the board's not working, it's probably because one of the boards is still in edit mode somewhere. So, and you can click on any board and it will just say exit edit mode if you can do that. So, okay, next on the list is set button text. So that's what we want to do. So we can start out, we can just put hello in this one. And you can type in any text into these that you want to. The text, it's not like Twitter or other board makers. You don't have a limit on how many characters you can do. So you can put a whole paragraph in here. We had one teacher who had photos of a vacation and put in paragraph descriptions of what happened on the vacation so that the kid could tell the class what he had done. So then we come over and we can use punctuation. So we can use commas or periods to get it to sound the way that we want it to sound. So for example, over here, let's say that we put, hi, my name is Andrew.
Hi, my name is Andrew.
And so you can see that comma in there gave it a nice little pause. You can see that I missed a space in there and it still pronounced it just fine. Now, one of the tricks to this is just like if you use, say, Siri on your phone or something, any of those automated type voices, you kind of have to learn their language. And you have to learn how to make it do what you want it to do. So one of the examples that I use is, let's come down here, we're going to put cow. Now, if I click on that,
Cow. Cow.
you can see how fast it, cow, cow. I'm not sure what that's really saying. So in a situation like this, maybe I want it to sound better. So I could try adding in a couple extra, I'm going to put 2 more W's in there. Click OK.
Cow.
And now it pronounces it better. So maybe I can try little tricks like that if I want something to sound a little bit better and do that. Now if I wanted this word to still show, Some of the tricks I could do is I could either increase the font size of cow so it would only show cow, or I can go into edit mode and now shrink that box so that only cow shows. And now the word looks correctly,
cow,
and it's pronounced a little bit better. So kind of some tricks there. Technology is like that. You need to learn how to make the technology do what you want it to. So these are kind of some tricks we've come up with as we've done it. Now it does use the Microsoft Voice from Windows to produce the voice. So if you go into your control panel, I believe it's under the accessibility options, you can change that voice to male or female. You can adjust the pitch of it if you want it to sound more like a little boy or a little girl. So you can do different things like that in there if you want to adjust that. Okay, so right-click again, Set Button Text. The next option, and this is a new option that we were able to add, we had a lot of requests for this, is to be able to set the position of the text to be either in the middle, top, or bottom of the picture. And I'm going to show you some limitations on that once we set a picture on here. So let's set a picture on this button, and we're going to set this happy sunshine. Sunshine says hello. There we go. So what I can do is come back in here to that set text position, and if I can put it at the top, you can see it kind of squishes it in there. Or I can set text position to the bottom, or I can put it back in the middle. Now, the limitation to this text position is that it will only allow one line without bleeding onto the picture. So if you're doing basic word recognition, it's a very useful tool. If you want to display a bunch of text, it's going to bleed onto the picture. So if I come in here and edit this text, and I say, hello, how are you? You can see that now my text bleeds up onto the picture. So using that, just knowing the limitations of how and what you can do with it, right now you can use it just for a one-word display. Let's say you were learning animals. You could put the name of the animal below each picture, and it would display without being on top of the picture. So very useful addition that we had there, and that was a suggestion we had from several of our teachers. Change that back to hello, and I'm going to just set the button position back to middle, put it on the sunshine. Okay, so now that first picture, I just set that from a file on my computer. So any picture on your computer you can set into Herbi. So let's come down here, and let's do set button text, and we're going to do something new here. So let's do a camel. So I'm going to type in camel.
camel,
And I want a picture of a camel. So I right-click, I click on Set Picture on Button, and I don't have a picture of a camel in my folder. So what I'm going to do is just come over to Google, type in camel, or any search engine that you like, and then I'm going to click on Images. Once it gives me our results here, I click on Images right here at the top, and it's going to display my images. Now, when you save an image from the results, save the small picture, because if I click on it, it will bring up a bigger picture or a bigger file. And with Herbi, if I have a bunch of pictures in one file, that Herbi file could get really big really fast if I'm using 2 megabyte pictures. So these files from these thumbnails right here are only like 46 kilobytes. They're very small. And so this is where you're going to want to save from. So a couple of things on pictures. When you choose a picture, make sure you choose something that actually looks like the object you're trying to depict. So for example, I had one mom who we were doing an animal board, and we were doing a dog. And when she picked the dog, she picked this dog that looked like a very fluffy lion. So it kind of defeated the purpose of trying to get the child to learn dog when it looked like a lion. So make sure you try to kind of look at that, look at the contrast of the picture, what actually looks like the animal you're trying to depict. Sometimes pictures like this that don't have a background are good because there's no other distraction. It's just maybe the animal itself that you're going to do. So just warning on that. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to right-click. So we'll take this camel right here. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to save image as. So don't save link as, save image as, and that's going to save it to my computer. And then I've already got a folder created for all of my Herbi pictures. So that's where I save all of them. I'm just going to click Save, type in camel, so I can find it. And then I'm going to come back over to Herbi. And now I come into Herbi here, and there's my camel picture. There we go. And you can see that's only it's even smaller. It's only 6.29 kilobytes. It's a tiny, tiny picture, so file size is really important. Click on my camel, and there I go. Now I'm using those images from the search engine under fair use, so that's for educational nonprofit uses. I'm not redistributing or selling them, so I'm okay to do that. And there's my camel. So here's a good example of I could resize. I could go back into edit mode now, and I could resize that to maybe make the camel fit and make it so it's not distorted. Exit edit mode. Okay, now once I've got my picture on there, I can display the text on the picture if I want to, or if I'm not even to the point of working on with text, I can just hide the text. So my next function is I can either remove the picture from the button if I needed to, but then the next one is show text. So by default, the text will show, but I can uncheck that, and now the text is hidden, but it will still speak.
Camel.
And so you can show the text or hide the text. So now we're going to come back up here to our Hello Sunshine, right-click again, and our next function is Set Button Text Font. And that's where I can, for each button, I can individually set the font style and size for that specific button if I want to. Generally, I don't actually use that much because I like to have my text uniform. But you can change it right in there if you needed to. The next one, however, I use all the time is Set Button Text Color. Now the text color also determines the color of the border. So if you look at my Hello Sunshine, you'll notice that there's a white border, but you can't see it because it's a white picture. And so that doesn't really help the user to know that they've hit the button because there's no border showing up. So I right-click, Set Button Text Color, and I click on yellow, and now I've got a yellow border on my Yellow Sunshine, but now I can't read my text because it says hello in yellow on a Yellow Sunshine. So that's another good reason of why you might need to change your text color is when the text blends into the picture, but I want it to show. So we could change that, or like we talked about before, I could change the text position and put it at the bottom of the picture also. And that might just help me too. If I did bottom of the picture, then that solves that problem right there. Otherwise, I can change my text position back to middle and change my text color to something that's going to be more visible. There we go. So each button can have its own color if you want it to if you're trying to decipher. Now be careful with border colors though, because sometimes what you can do with border colors is end up having the student or the person memorize the color rather than the actual object in the button. So kind of be careful with that sometimes. Okay, right click. That's all the button editing. Now we come down to linking and go to full screen view. We can go to full screen view from here, but linking the boards. Now this is where it gets fun, because what I can do is I can create multiple boards within a file and then link them together, just like a website. So basically, if you want to think of it more like a website, I'm going to create a bunch of web pages, and then each button can then link to a different web page back and forth, across. You know, you can kind of do, if they click on this, then it goes to this, and back and forth. And create almost like self-navigating boards, and we're going to show you how that becomes very useful. So to do that, I'm going to come up to Boards. Now, quick side note, if I right-click, that's how I edit my current board. Right-click edits my current board. The menu up at the top with Boards is where I'm actually going to manage my boards themselves, so going in between boards. So I have functions here to add a board, make a new board from the current board, rename the current board, delete current board, reorder boards. And then down here is going to be a list of all of my boards. So right now I've got my default board. I'm just going to add a new one. And it's just going to be called Board 2. You can name it whatever you want. And it just gives me a new blank screen. So now I'm going to add a button. For our purposes, I'm going to set the text. We're just going to call it main because I am going to now right-click on this and link back to the main board, the default board. Now you'll notice right down here I can click on this, I can have that button speak and then move to the other board, or I can turn that off and just have it linked to the other board if I don't want it to speak. So I link it back to the default.
Main.
and it links back to that board. So then from this board, I could then click on any one of these buttons and make it link to that board too.
Hello.
And I can link back and forth. Now, when you do this, you want to make sure that you use the recovery time. This is why the recovery time was put into Camera Mouse and into Eagle Eyes, is for different programs where you don't want it to click for a certain amount of time. So what you want to do is make sure that you give enough recovery time that Herbi can finish speaking before it advances. Otherwise, if I click twice,
Main.
you see I canceled the navigation because it clicked twice. So you need to just give it enough time,
Main.
1/1000, before it lets it click again so that it can advance to the next board. So that's just a good refresher on the recovery time. So linking, I can click on any button. So any button that I've already got on my board, when I right-click on that button, I have the option right here to link to another board. And right here, it's going to give me a list of all my current boards. So I only have 2 boards in this right now. If I came up, for example, boards, I'm going to add another board, board 3. And now what I can do is navigate. If I come back up to boards, I can actually navigate back to my default board. And then I want the camel to link to another board. And I select link to board 3. And now when I click on the camel, it links to board 3. Now another way that you can tell what board you're on, this can get a little confusing if you're trying to do more complex tasks. So to make sure that you know where you're at, up here at the top, it tells you which board you're on. So right here it says board 3. So I'm on board 3. You can also click back into the board menu and there's a check mark next to the board that you're still on. So that's where it is. So once I have a button on a board, that button then can be linked to any other board that's already in your array. Now, you can only link to boards within the same file. So if you create separate files, you can't link the 2 files together. So when you're doing it, you have to create all the boards within that one file in order for them to link to each other. Okay. So now the next option that we have here is making a new board from the current board. So let's say, for example, we go back. I'm going to navigate back to the default board. Let's say we wanted to make a template. Let's say we were doing a matching game or something to that effect. And so what we want to do is be able to just copy what we have because we're just going to match it and we just want to scramble the pictures around. So once we create our template, we can then come in here and say board, make a new board from the current board, and it's just going to copy this into a new board. At that point, we can then change any of the text or pictures on that board that we need to do that. And I'm going to show you some examples of how we did that. Then I can also rename the current board. So right now it's renamed to default. So let's rename this board. We called it main. So maybe I just want it to be called my main board. Okay. So now when I come back in my board, it's now called main instead of default. And then my next one, I can delete current boards also. So if I've created a bad board that I just want to get rid of, I can just scrap the whole board and be done with it. But reorder boards. Now this came up, this was a thing that I requested because as I started creating, I had created a game that had 12 or more slides in it. And all of a sudden I realized that I wanted a different starting page. But I had already used that page for something. So what we can do is reorder the boards to where I could create a new board because the file will always open up to the first board in the list. And so now I can say, oh, you know what? I want board 3 to be the first one I open to. So I click on that, and I just move it up all the way to the top to where I want it, and I can get those boards in whatever order that I want them to go in. Now the order actually has nothing to do with anything other than the first board is the one it opens to. Linking just depends on which one you linked it to. You can link board 3 to board 12 to board 5. Linking can go any direction. So really the only main purpose of the order is going to be that first board is what this will open to. So now I click OK, and board 3 is going to be my first board in the array. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a bunch of examples. Real quick, we're just going to pause for 30 seconds. If anyone has any questions up to this point, go ahead and type them in really fast. Looks like we had a question, is Herbi open source? It is not open source. Guy Barker does own the rights to it. It's his proprietary development, and so he has told us that he retains the rights to it, but he gives us full access to distribute it for free to anyone and everyone. Now, if somebody out there has .NET Framework, he would probably love to have a cohort. So, yeah. So if we have any interest there, by all means, let us know. But if you guys have any questions, type them in real fast. We'll wait just a minute, and then I'm going to show you a bunch of examples of what we've done with it, and try to get your juices flowing. Right now, we had a question: can this link to a video file? Right now, no, we can't link to video files. That is an advanced version that we are working on to be able to do that. It's a little bit more complex than it looks, and we want it to do some things that are a little bit different than the current board makers. So that is in the request file that we're looking for. So Guy Barker has committed to continue to develop this for us. He's very excited to see all of you guys using it and to see the difference that it's making. So, okay, I'll keep watching for questions, but I'm going to go on. Okay, so file open. I'm going to open up a file that I've already got. Do I want to save my current changes? No, this is just a test board, so I'm not going to save it. So it will prompt you to save it so that you don't lose all of your work. But if you don't save it, you do lose your work. So always keep an eye on that. Okay. I'm going to start out really simple here. I want to give a really good example. I talked to a lot of teachers. We're not the experts on when it comes to educational type stuff. We try to distribute Eagle Eyes and do our best at what we do, but some of the educators really have been the biggest resource. And one of the things they said is keep it simple. Keep it simple as possible, especially when you begin. So here's a basic board that we kind of made of just basic object identification. Can the individual sequentially and continually identify an object, or is it just by chance? So
this is a ball. Can you find the ball?
So I've got the instructions on the first page, and then it links into the next page. Now notice in the middle, remember we said don't put anything in the middle unless it's the instructions. So sure enough, here's my instructions.
Can you find the ball?
So it asks me to find the ball. If I click on the wrong one.
This is a truck. Try again.
So I programmed it to tell me what the object is, but tell me to try again. And so now I come over, I click on the ball.
You found the ball. Good job.
And now it scrambles. Now it didn't really scramble, it just linked to another board.
You found the ball. Good job.
Okay, and so you can see it just starts moving around. So I'm looking for, can they continually identify the object that I want them to identify? And this is kind of what we want to do, is just stress this is how basic you might start if you're not really quite sure where they're at. Now, if you already know where they're at and you have a really good baseline, then by all means, go ahead and go more advanced. But we've seen too many situations where we've shown up and we've seen people who have basically created content that's way too complex or advanced, and they're saying, oh, this isn't working. Well, we need to simplify it down a little bit and work our way up to that. So now this one is a very good example. If I click on boards, you can see that I've got 13 boards in this file. So this truck and this ball move around 13 different times. And so maybe I wanted to move around even more. What I can do, I'm going to come to board 13 now. And what I can now do is I'm going to use that function where I'm going to say boards, make a new board from the current board. I'm going to call it board 14. That's fine. Okay. And now you'll notice that this is identical to board 13 now. So I can look up top to make sure I'm on board 14. I am. And then I can come down here, right click, enter edit mode. And I'm going to just trade my ball and my truck. Right click, exit edit mode. And now what I need to do is now come back to board 12, I'm sorry, board 13, because I need board 13, I click on the ball, right-click, link to another board, and I want this to link to board 14. Now, I can link to any board I want. It doesn't have to be sequential. But in this situation, I do want it to go to board 14. So now when I click on it,
you found a ball. Good job.
It clicks. And now what I can do is I'm going to look at this, and let's say that I want this to keep going in a circle. I don't want the game to end. What I can then do is just take this last ball, link to another board, and I'm going to link it back to board 2. So that what happens is when I've made it through all 12 slides, it starts over again, so that maybe I'm trying to track, a lot of teachers will track how long it takes the student to hit the object. So maybe I want to see, do we have improvement? So the first round they didn't, but it goes right into it. The second round they were getting it within 1 second. So we could do different things like that. So there's just a basic matching game when we do that. So let's show you another file. Sure, I'll save my current changes. Now here's basic. We talked about this. Maybe you want to just do where they're learning an animal, and you want them to see the word so that they can maybe start also associating the word as an object and getting those sight words down. And so we could do something just as basic as this. This board has only one board. It doesn't link to anything. So you don't have to use the linking. If this is what you're going to do, this is the purpose for the day, then I can just say, okay, where's the dog? And then work with them and have them get the dog. Because I want to maybe see if they can respond to my verbal cues or whatever I do that way. So it doesn't have to be complex. It can be very, very simple. Now a board like this, honestly, you could create in probably under 2 minutes. So if you're trying to do a lesson that day or do a certain task, you can create these boards very, very quickly. Now we'll come back, file open, and let's give you some more ideas here. So here's a board that we used with one student on camera mouse. She was practicing or doing her numbers and weather. She is totally deaf, and so her aide would sign to her and said, okay, let's do numbers. So she comes over and numbers. And now notice our numbers are all white. They're not colored because we don't want them to memorize color. We want them to memorize the numbers. So we'd say, where's number 4?
4.
She'd click on it. Now, this is really good to note. She was totally deaf. And so what we had here was a visual. We got the border that came, and then she can also see when it clicks.
4.
Because it flashes. And so she was able to know when she had selected it, even though she couldn't hear it. And then down here at the bottom, we have our menu. And she very quickly found that menu button. She said, I'm out of here.
Menu.
Clicked on that menu and came back. And you can actually watch that in the video. We have it on the video on camera mouse. And then we came back and said, okay, let's go to weather.
Weather.
So she went into weather, and then we did the different weather with her. So you can create these boards to be fun, to be games, to be educational. We'll show you here we just threw together a quick communication type board. I want, I feel, I am, I need. So we can go, for example, I want.
I want.
Well, what do you want? So maybe we pick out, what are the top 4 or 5 things that they want to do?
To listen to music.
I want to listen to music. In the middle, I put I want again.
I want. To watch a movie.
Okay. So maybe, let's say, for example, to watch a movie. Well, from there, maybe I want them to be able to pick which movie they want to watch. So once again, I can come in here, add a board. I'm going to name this board Movies. Hit OK. There's my blank board. And then I could add my buttons in here. And I could put in maybe a picture of each of the movies that they love to watch. And then when I come back over to my I want board, I would then click on my movie button, link to another board, and link over to the movies. So now they can come in and say, I want
to watch a movie.
To watch a movie, and it automatically links over to their movies. And now they can tell you exactly which movie they want to watch. So choice selection, allowing them the freedom of being able to do that. So I had a question, once Herbi is installed, do I need the internet for it to run? No, you do not. Once it's installed, it just runs on the computer that it's on. that way. Now, one of the things you can do is if you save the Herbi files are automatically created and saved in your Documents folder under a Herbi file folder. So you can go into your Documents, find those Herbi files, and you could drop those onto a thumb drive and be able to share them. Now, like we showed you on the website, though, we'd also like you to share them with us and upload them to us, because then we can put them on there for everybody to be able to download and share and use. But for example, like with teachers and parents, you could have a thumb drive that you could send home with files on it. Mom and Dad could create files, send those to school, and Herbi Speaks is so easy that parents and teachers should be able to do that very easily. Unlike some of the commercially available board makers, they're very, very hard to teach quickly. I'm sure you guys have experienced that if you've ever tried to do those. Once you learn those advanced board makers, they're amazing at what they can do, but at $200 a license and 2 to 3 hours in training, it becomes a little bit laborious to do it, and that's why we wanted to have Herbi Speaks. Okay. So that's just a basic communication type board. Now you notice that what we did on this is same thing. We kind of put a little navigation type feature on it, just like a website where I could do a back button or a main menu button, whatever you want to use, where they know that they can click that and it's going to take them back to their main menu. So it can be self-navigating just like a website, kind of that home button type feel. Let's show you another board. Would I'd like to save the changes? No. We're going to come in here. Now here's a butterfly matching game. Notice I put one object bigger than the others so that they know that there's a difference between them.
Can you find a picture that matches this one?
And then I've got the instructions on that button, right in the middle of the screen where they're going to hit it naturally anyway. And I've got to find the one that matches. Now notice the text on this is very generic. Can you find the one that matches this one? I didn't say, can you find the butterfly? Now I did that on purpose because what I could do is, now that I've created this game, I could come in here, do File, Save As, and basically I'm just going to resave this file as a new file. And let's say we save as, and we're going to do cars. And once I've saved it as the new file cars, now I can come in here and just replace all the pictures with cars. And the text does not need to be changed. The links are still there. And so I could create several matching games very, very quickly by simply just replacing the pictures, do a save as, then replace the pictures, and that way you don't save over the top of your original file. And I can duplicate and create a bunch of different games with different pictures. Now, same thing here. If I click on the wrong one.
Not a match. Try again.
Not a match. Try again. Click on the right one.
Good job. You found a match.
And then it shuffles. So this also you could use, say, for example, if you did have an advanced user, you could create quizzes where you could put the question in the middle and then have your answers around it where they could actually do quizzes or schoolwork. That obviously would be very advanced, but if you have somebody that's at that level, then you could basically digitize any sort of homework or anything like that. This, I think, especially would apply with camera mouse, because we have a lot of camera mouse users who are very advanced to that point. So that might be very useful there. Okay, I'm going to come back. We're going to open up a new file again, show you a couple more here. I'm going to show you we just made a quick yes-no board and tried to kind of use some of the images that we've seen in schools a lot. If you do a yes-no board, be careful. A lot of people kind of get on it and they kind of do it willy-nilly and start asking funny questions. Make sure that you do this properly, otherwise it frustrates everyone involved. So if you do a yes-no board, approach it cautiously, and when you ask the questions, make sure you do follow-up questions to verify. Are we really getting it, or do they just like the sound of it?
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes they just like the sound of it, and so they start clicking on it. Now, with the yes-no board or something similar like this, one of the things that Eagle Eyes and Camera Mouse are really good for is that they can be used as a transition device, meaning that what we can do is teach the kids by using Camera Mouse or Eagle Eyes to be able to communicate without the devices. So, for example, if I use a yes-no board, I want to make sure that yes or no is always on the same side. So if you always do yes on the right, leave it on the right. So that way they start to learn that even without Eagle Eyes, I can look to the right, and that says yes. I can look to the left, and that means no. And so they can actually start communicating without a device. So kind of keep that in mind as you maybe develop things, that consistency sometimes will allow them to transition to use other methods or other devices also. Okay. Now this was a fun one. This was a fun idea that one of our teachers had, is just making really, she calls them quick fire comments, where basically the individual can just strike up a conversation in a room full of people.
What are you talking about?
And then start getting the responses. And she had one student who I guess was quite the smart aleck and really liked this board because then he could respond to anything that the person then said.
Get out of here. I don't believe it.
And so you can kind of see how that could be fun, just opening up the world to them and allowing them to explore more possibilities and being able to do that. So you can use it. You can see we've tried to show you a good sampling of different things that you can do. We're really excited to see what you guys come up with, especially because you guys are the ones that are with these individuals every day. And so you have a better insight as to what would work or what wouldn't. So as you upload your files, leave us a comment. Let us know as you're uploading it, how it works or different things that you've done with it so that we can let other people know also. So those are, I believe those are all the ones we wanted to show you. Make sure that I didn't miss any. Oh, here's the last one. So here's an animal find board. So
let's find the animals.
Let's find the animals. And then I've got 6 animals on here. Now, let me give you a quick tip here on how to do this. After creating several of these, I started to realize that there was an easier way to do it. So for example, on this board, what I'm going to do is each board is going to ask me to find a different animal.
Can you find the dog?
So this board wants me to find the dog. So in order to develop this originally, what I did is I put 6 pictures on the board, and then I programmed each picture to say,
horse, try again.
The name of the animal, and then try again. So originally it said dog, try again, horse, try again. And then the middle one said, can you find the, and I just left it blank. At that point, I then copied it 6 times because I have 6 animals. And then at that point, all I had to do is go in and edit 2 buttons on every board and scramble them around in order to do it. So on this board, I came in, edited the question to, can you find the dog? And I edited the dog to, good job, you found the dog.
Dog, you found a dog.
And then it sequences to the next one. Now on this board, you can see up at the top, this is the horse board. So I edited the question to say, can you find the horse?
Can you find the horse? Horse, you found a horse.
And there's a horse. So the reason that makes it easier is because if you tried to copy from the original dog board, where I have it saying, this is the dog, good job, you would have to go in and change the dog and the horse and the question mark. And so what we're trying to do here is just make it very simple where you could create stuff up front and do it. So try to come up with a really good template that you really like before you copy it into multiple pages. Otherwise, you have to go through and change every page if you decide you want to change something. And a couple of times I've done that, and I've actually gone back and just deleted all the boards, taken the original one, changed the changes I wanted, and then remade my copies because it was easier to do it that way. So that's kind of a couple tips and tricks and errors from my own doing that I've done so far. I hope some of that helps you. Do you guys have more questions? We're going to wait and see if anybody types in. Just type your questions in there if you have more questions or if you want me to show you how to do something more. We're happy to do that. The biggest thing that we're going to stress is to really start using the website and check in there with the Herbi Speaks library because that's where we're going to start getting uploads and also where we will always post the latest version of the software. So if you don't have the latest version, just remember you have to uninstall your old version first, reinstall the new version. When you uninstall it, it will not delete your files. Your files are actually saved in your documents folder, so they will stay there. You don't have to worry about that. We're just waiting on any questions. I'm not that good of a presenter. You guys have to have questions. Okay, I have a question. If a user looks at another animal before it finishes the text, will it sound over itself? No, that's one of the things that we fixed early on. So, for example, if I click on the cat.
Cat, try again.
Now, notice I went right over and clicked on the cow. We did program it so that what it does is it will not allow you to click again until the text has finished speaking. So that way it will work. The only problem is on the linking. You have to put in that recovery time for the linking because it will allow you to click twice on the same button. Because you'll notice if I click on it,
cat, try again.
When I click on the cow, it allows me to click on the cow. It just won't speak cow when I click on it until the other is done. So they may have to click on it twice if the text is not finished reading yet. Good question. We have more questions. We really want this to be a good tool. Our biggest concern was we had a lot of people who kind of felt like they played games and then they said, then what? And we really hope that Herbi Speaks is going to be the answer to the then what, because it's unlimited what you can do with it. Then what is really in your hands to now take that progression and progress them as far as they can go. Any more questions? Okay. All right. Got a couple comments there. Great tool. Very excited to start using it. So we're really excited. As always, if you guys ever need questions answered, or if you want to do a personal webinar with us, you can always contact us and we can set up a personal webinar or a Skype call with you. We really want to make sure that we support you guys and give you anything you need. So if you're having any difficulties at all, please let us know. We want you guys to have the best experience possible. So always keep that in mind, that we're available to do whatever we need to. We've done some really funny Skype calls before where people pick up the web camera and show us how the electrodes are placed because they're worried that they're on wrong. And so we can do all sorts of trainings with you, whatever accommodates your needs. So, okay, well, we're going to end the webinar. We'll hang out here for just a couple more minutes if there's any last-minute questions. If not, we appreciate all of you attending. And I believe when that closes out, it'll ask you to just rate the webinar, let us know how we did. We are going to try to do a minimum of 2 webinars, big webinars per year, one in the spring and one in the fall. Not just because Christmas gets busy and then the summer gets busy, so we kind of looked at the school year and said, let's do a spring and a fall one. And what we will do is always go over new things and things like Herbi or anything new that's come out to try to keep you guys updated. We want to make sure that you guys are updated all the time and have the latest and greatest available to you. So, okay, we'll just hang out here and see if there's any more questions. We really appreciate all of you coming in. Okay, I had a question of who I am. So my name is Andrew Leffler, and I am the Director of Operations with the Foundation. So I actually do a lot of the back-end stuff. I actually manage the website, so if you have suggestions for the website, I can actually change those same-day type thing. I handle a lot of the technical aspect. I'm also the warehouse for the Foundation. So I'm the jack of all trades behind the scenes. But I work with the kids also, so I have quite a bit of background that way. Background-wise, I used to teach at a university. I used to be a chief flight instructor, so I do have education and background in some of that. So By no means am I a professional like most of you, but I do have some background. And Sharon, we're excited to meet you and see how that works out for your son also. Okay. Sunshine, we're very excited to see what you do with Herbi also. So make sure you guys share your boards with us. Okay, yes, the boards that we showed you today, I will have them up on the website hopefully by the end of this week. Like I said, we're having trouble with the Herbi file extension. When you try to download them, it downloads them as a text file because the server's not recognizing the Herbi file. So I have to go into the back end somehow and make it recognize those files this week. And then, yes, I will upload all of the sample boards that I did today, and you guys can start playing with them. And Sharon, I believe I will be doing that evaluation with Brian, so that will be fantastic. Look forward to that. Okay, question, is there a way to add a celebration or animation when you click on a picture before it links to another board? No, not yet. That is a request that I have put in, very similar to like PowerPoint where you can make it spin or do something. We are looking into that and trying to see if we can add that in an advanced. To the advanced version of it. So we have a lot of really good ideas for the advanced version, but we really wanted to release this basic version to everyone so that you guys could start playing with it. Because that advanced version, to be very honest, I'm guessing is going to take us probably another year because it really has some complexities to it of how it's going to link and work. Okay, to uninstall the old version of Herbi Speaks, you just need to go into the control panel and select uninstall a program. If you're using Windows 7, you can just type into the search bar uninstall and it'll bring up a selection for uninstall a program, and then you will select Herbi Speaks from that program list to uninstall before you install the new one. And then the boards had a question, will the boards be able to be used as a template or are they protected? No, the boards are totally open. You can do whatever you want with them. So there's actually no way to protect the boards. So once we release them out there, you can change them any way you want, do whatever. So maybe we come up with something that's generic, like that butterfly game, and you want it to be specific, so you can go back in and type in butterfly and or customize it, or maybe put in the child's name if you're working with somebody specific and you want it to be personal to them. You could add stuff like that in. So